15-second hook. They said the billionaire, Eleanor Vance, was dead. The world believed it. Her relatives celebrated it. The media broadcasted it. But one poor orphan girl, scarred by life yet brave beyond reason, ran into the middle of a grand funeral and screamed, "Stop! She's not dead." Everyone laughed. Everyone doubted her. But what happened next changed every life in that mansion forever. Part 1. The morning sky over Crestfall City looked washed out, pale, as if mourning the woman everyone believed had died the night before. News vans crowded the long driveway of the Vance estate, the largest mansion in the region, an architectural masterpiece built by generations of the Vance family. Reporters rehearsed lines, makeup artists powdered faces, and drones buzzed overhead for the historic coverage of billionaire Eleanor Vance's funeral. Inside the estate gates, flowers, white lilies and violets, lined the marble walkway. Hundreds of chairs were arranged in perfect rows, filled with wealthy guests dressed in black. The atmosphere had that strange heaviness that follows the death of someone powerful, half grief, half curiosity, and half anticipation of whatever fortune she might have left behind. But outside those tall, iron gates, far from the luxury and the whispers, stood a little girl in a worn-out dress, clutching a small cloth bag to her chest. Her name was Layla, 15. An orphan. Thin, pale, but with eyes that carried storms. She had run all the way from the old district, her shoes almost torn apart. Her chest still heaved, but she didn't care. She had to reach Eleanor. She had to stop this funeral. She had to tell someone what she knew. Because Eleanor Vance wasn't dead. Not yet. Layla wiped sweat from her forehead and looked up at the estate. The security guards were checking invitations. There was no way they would let in a girl who looked like she crawled out of a forgotten corner of the city. But she had to try. She whispered to herself, "Eleanor saved my life once. It's my turn to save hers." The truth was, Layla hadn't always known Eleanor. Their story began just 3 weeks earlier, on a rainy evening when Layla sat under a broken bridge, hugging herself for warmth. She had run away from the orphanage after the new caretaker started selling donated supplies and beating the kids who complained. Layla, always too outspoken for her own safety, was the first to run. Alone, cold, and hungry, she had watched the rain swallow the night. That was when a fancy car stopped on the road above her. A woman stepped out, tall, elegant, dressed in a simple coat despite her wealth. Her short silver hair clung to her forehead from the rain. It was Eleanor Vance. Layla had recognized her face from newspapers, one of the richest women in the country, known for charity, power, intelligence, and a loneliness people always whispered about. But Eleanor didn't walk past her. She walked toward her. "Are you all right, sweetheart?" she asked, kneeling beside Layla. Her voice carried a warmth Layla hadn't heard in years. Layla wanted to lie, to hide, to push her away like she did everyone else. But something in Eleanor's eyes, gentle, curious, broken, made her whisper the truth. I don't have anywhere to go." Eleanor had taken out a handkerchief and dabbed Layla's face gently. "Everyone has somewhere to go. We just have to find it." She invited Layla into her car, wrapped her in a warm blanket, gave her food, and listened, really listened, to her story. That night, Layla felt seen. That night, Eleanor promised to help her once the charity paperwork cleared. But the next morning, Eleanor collapsed in her office. Doctors said stroke. The relatives said inheritance. And the media said she was gone. But Layla knew different. 3 days ago, she had snuck into the hospital after hearing the news. No one noticed the small girl slipping past the nurses. When she reached Eleanor's room, she saw something no one else bothered to see. Eleanor's fingers moved. Just barely. Soft twitches. A struggle. A sign of life. Layla had shaken, tears pouring as she whispered, "You're still here." "I knew it." But before she could alert anyone, a doctor walked in, Dr. Rowan Vance, Eleanor's nephew. A charming man on the outside, but with eyes that held coldness like stone. He had seen Layla and smirked. "You shouldn't be here. The body will be transferred soon." Body. Layla whispered. But she's alive. I saw her fingers move. Rowan had stepped closer, bending down until his face was inches from hers. You think you saw something? Stress can trick the mind. She's gone. And if you say otherwise, you'll be the one in trouble for trespassing. Layla's stomach dropped. But then she saw it again. Eleanor's eyelids fluttered. Rowan didn't even turn to look. He simply injected something into the four and said calmly, "Time of death, unofficially, will be noted soon." Layla had gasped. "What are you doing?" Rowan had looked at her like she was an insect. "Ensuring the inheritance doesn't go to waste." Layla had run. And she had been running ever since. Back to the present, the funeral. Layla's heart pounded as she watched the casket being carried toward the grand stage where the ceremony would begin. Her hands trembled. If they buried Eleanor today, it would be murder. And no one would ever know. She stepped forward. A security guard held out a hand. "No kids allowed. Move back." "I need to stop the funeral," she cried. "She isn't dead." The guard snorted. "Another attention seeker. Move along, girl." Layla gritted her teeth. Tears burned her eyes, not of fear, but of frustration. No one believed a poor orphan. To them, she was nothing but background noise. Then she spotted Rowan Vance, dressed in an elegant black suit, smiling gracefully as he greeted guests. He looked like a grieving nephew, but Layla knew the grin hiding behind that fake sadness. She clenched her fists and whispered, "I won't let you win." The casket was now placed on the stage. The priest stepped forward. Guests silenced. Photographers leaned in. The media drones hovered closer for emotional shots. Layla took a deep breath. Then she ran. Straight toward the funeral. Her heartbeat roared in her ears. The world blurred around her. She didn't care who laughed, who shouted, who tried to grab her. All she could see was the casket. Security guards yelled, "Stop that kid." Some rushed after her. But Layla was small, fast, desperate. She slid between two chairs, jumped over a floral stand, and sprinted up the aisle. Gasps rose. People stood. What is she doing? Is this staged? Someone stop her. Rowan's face twisted in shock as he realized who she was. Layla reached the stage just as the guards caught up. And she screamed, voice shaking but fierce enough to cut through the ceremony. "Stop! She's not dead." The entire estate froze. Every head turned. The guards grabbed her arms, but she kicked and struggled, yelling, "Listen to me. Please. She's alive. I saw her move." "You're burying her alive." Guests murmured in irritation and disbelief. Some laughed. Some frowned. Rowan stepped forward, his voice smooth like oil. "This girl is mentally disturbed. She has been harassing our family for days." "I'm not lying." Layla cried, tears streaming. She moved. She was breathing. "You injected something into her for. I saw you." A collective gasp. Rowan's jaw tightened. He couldn't let this girl ruin everything. So he smiled sadly and said, "She's traumatized. Please escort her out." The guards began dragging her away. Layla screamed desperately, "Please. Open the casket. If I'm wrong, I'll go to jail. I'll disappear forever. But if I'm right..." Her voice cracked. "You'll save her life." Silence fell. The crowd stared. Some confused. Some uneasy. Even the priest hesitated. Rowan's face stiffened, but he forced a laugh. "This girl is manipulating your emotions." "Open it." Layla cried again, her voice breaking. "Just open it, please." For the first time, doubt flickered through the crowd. A murmuring wave rose. What if she's right? There have been cases of mistaken death. Shouldn't we check? It won't hurt to make sure. Rowan's eyes burned with anger. But Layla's tear-soaked face, her trembling body, her raw desperation. It was too real to ignore. The priest finally said, "Perhaps we should open it." just to put the child's mind at ease. And with that one sentence, Rowan Vance felt his world crumble. And Layla felt a spark of hope. What she didn't know was that opening that casket would reveal more secrets, lies, and betrayals than she ever imagined. And the truth inside would change everything. Part 2. A heavy stillness fell over the Vance estate as the priest's words settled like dust on polished marble. Guests shifted uncomfortably. Some exchanged uneasy glances. Even the reporters, who lived for sensational drama, paused their cameras, not wanting to risk disrespecting the moment if the girl turned out to be telling the truth. Layla's breath trembled, her heartbeat echoing like a drum in her chest. The guards still held her arms tightly, but they no longer dragged her. Everyone waited. Everyone watched. And Rowan Vance, whose entire future depended on this moment, clenched his jaw until the muscles in his face twitched. He stepped forward, forcing a strained smile that didn't reach his eyes. This is absurd. Eleanor was thoroughly examined by certified physicians. My aunt, God rest her soul, passed peacefully. We must not allow theatrics to disrupt her final rites. But the priest, an elderly man with silver-framed glasses and kind but cautious eyes, responded calmly. The girl's plea is not a performance, Mr. Vance. I've presided over hundreds of funerals. I know the difference between hysteria and sincere terror. A ripple of tension passed through the crowd. One of the guests, a woman in her 60s with a pearl necklace, spoke softly. Rowan, perhaps we should check. Just to be absolutely certain. Indeed, another man added. It would take only a moment. More murmurs followed. Rowan's composure cracked. For a fleeting instant, his eyes flashed with pure hostility, not at the guests, not at the priest, but at Layla. Then he straightened his suit and announced, Fine. If it will prove the girl wrong and allow this ceremony to proceed with dignity, we shall open the casket. Layla sucked in a shaky breath. The guards finally released her, though they hovered nearby, ready to grab her again if Rowan ordered it. She rubbed her wrists, her palms sweaty, her entire body trembling. She felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, hope on one side, catastrophe on the other. 2 funeral staff members stepped forward. Their gloves were white, pristine, untouched by the drama unfolding. They approached the casket slowly, as if fearing what they might find. Guests leaned in. Some stood. Cameras zoomed. Reporters whispered into microphones. Rowan folded his arms behind him, jaw locked, fingers digging into his own skin. Layla whispered under her breath, Please, please don't be too late. The staff pressed the metal latches. Click, click. The sound echoed in the tense air. Then, very gently, they lifted the lid. The faint creak of hinges pierced the silence. Someone gasped. Someone else whimpered. And Layla stepped forward, breath frozen in her throat. Eleanor Vance lay inside, still, pale, delicately dressed in a soft ivory gown. Her silver hair had been brushed neatly. Her hands rested on her stomach, holding a single lily. She looked peaceful, angelic, untouched by suffering. But Layla's eyes weren't searching for beauty. She was searching for life. Her heart pounded as she leaned closer. The room seemed to tilt. Her vision blurred. Everything, the cameras, the faces, the whispering crowd, faded into nothing but the woman in that casket. Eleanor. Her mentor. Her lifeline. Her last hope. Layla's voice cracked into the silence. Please, move, please. No one breathed. No one dared blink. Seconds stretched painfully. Then, Eleanor's finger twitched. A subtle, unmistakable tremor. Layla gasped so loudly the entire crowd turned toward her. There. Did you see that? She moved. A wave of shock surged through the guests. I saw it. Her hand moved. Did she just? I thought she was dead. The funeral staff stumbled back, wide-eyed. Layla covered her mouth with trembling hands. Tears welled in her eyes. Rowan's face went pale, then red, then twisted into a mix of rage and fear. That is a post-mortem twitch, he shouted. A reflex. She is dead. No. Layla cried, stepping closer. Look again. And this time, everyone stared at Eleanor's chest. It rose. Barely, but unmistakably. A soft, shallow breath. A breath from someone who shouldn't be breathing. A collective gasp rippled through the estate like a storm wind. The priest whispered, trembling, "Dear heavens, she's alive." People screamed. Some shouted for medical staff. Others simply stood frozen, hands over their mouths. Rowan lunged forward. "No, don't touch her." But he wasn't fast enough. A doctor from the crowd, the hospital's senior neurologist, stepped in front of Rowan and examined Eleanor quickly, breathlessly. His voice shook. "She has faint but present vital signs. She is not deceased." Chaos erupted. Reporters tripped over each other rushing forward. Guests shouted questions. Paramedics ran from the medical tent across the lawn. Security scrambled to control the crowd. But Layla collapsed to her knees, sobbing with relief. She whispered toward the casket. "I told you. I told them. I knew you were still here." Two paramedics gently lifted Eleanor out, placing her onto a stretcher with oxygen tubes and monitoring devices. Her pulse was weak but present. Her eyelids trembled again. "She's stabilizing," a paramedic announced. Hope burst in Layla's chest like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. But then, a hand clamped down on her shoulder. Hard. Layla turned, and found Rowan towering over her. His smile was gone. His mask torn off. What stared down at her now wasn't a grieving nephew, but a man exposed. His voice was low, venomous. "You ruined everything." Layla trembled but held his gaze. "I saved her." "You've destroyed your own life," he hissed. "You think anyone will believe the lies you're spinning? Do you realize what you've just done?" "I told the truth," she whispered. Rowan's grip tightened. "Listen carefully, girl. Eleanor is dying anyway. This changes nothing. But you, I can make sure no one ever finds you again." Before he could say more, someone grabbed his wrist. A firm, commanding grip. Rowan spun around. It was the neurologist from earlier. "Mr. Vance," the doctor said sternly, "I hope you understand the severity of the situation. Had we proceeded with the burial, your aunt would have suffocated alive in that casket." Guests gasped. Whispers turned into outrage. Rowan tried to compose himself. "It was the hospital's mistake, not mine." But the doctor was not fooled. "I reviewed the notes myself. Her vitals never fully flatlined. Someone signed her death prematurely." He narrowed his gaze. "Your signature is on the clearance order." The crowd erupted. "What?" "He declared her dead." "That's illegal." "He wanted her inheritance." Rowan's face drained of color. Layla stood slowly, watching him. For once, she wasn't the one shaking. He was. Security guards approached him, unsure but alert. Rowan snapped, "Stay away from me." He jabbed a finger toward Layla. "She's lying. She was obsessed with my aunt. She fabricated everything." But the priest stepped forward, his voice rising above the chaos. "I witnessed the girl's desperation, her sincerity. She risked her life to stop this ceremony. That is not the act of a liar." The guests muttered in agreement. Rowan looked around wildly, like a trapped animal searching for escape. And then he bolted. He pushed past the crowd and sprinted through the garden, bumping into chairs, trampling flowers, shoving anyone in his way. Security chased him. Reporters followed. Cameras streamed everything live. But Layla didn't run after him. She had only one priority. She rushed toward the stretcher where Eleanor lay. The paramedics were preparing to wheel her toward the ambulance. Layla held Eleanor's cold hand, tears blurring her vision. "Please hold on," she whispered. "You're not alone. I'm right here." For a moment, Eleanor's eyelids fluttered again. Layla leaned closer, praying she would open them. And then, a faint whisper. barely audible. "L. Layla." Layla's breath hitched. "I'm here. I'm here, Miss Eleanor. Please don't talk. Just breathe. They are taking care of you." The paramedics exchanged shocked looks. "She's conscious," one whispered. "She recognizes someone," another murmured. They moved quickly, loading Eleanor into the ambulance. Layla tried to climb in after them, but a guard stopped her gently. "Only medical staff allowed." "But she needs me," Layla pleaded. The doctor from earlier stepped toward them. "What's your name?" "Layla," she whispered. I'm just an orphan." "But she saved me once. She's the only person who ever cared." The doctor looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "You're coming with us." Layla's eyes widened. I can." "You're the one she responded to. And you're the reason she's alive right now." The guard moved aside. Layla climbed into the ambulance, sitting beside Eleanor, holding her hand as the doors closed. Outside, chaos still raged, Rowan hunted by security, reporters broadcasting the scandal nationwide, guests crying or shouting or whispering in disbelief. But inside the ambulance, it was quiet. The sirens began to wail. And Layla whispered again, softer this time, "I won't let anything happen to you. Not again." As the ambulance sped down the long driveway, Eleanor's faint grip tightened, almost invisible, but undeniably real. Layla smiled through her tears. For the first time in years, she felt something she thought she'd lost forever. Family, hope, and the beginning of a truth that would soon unravel every lie Rowan had built. But what Layla didn't know yet was that this was only the start. The real battle hadn't even begun. Part 3. The ambulance sped through the streets of Crestfall City, sirens slicing through the late morning air. Layla sat inside clutching Eleanor's cold hand, her own palms trembling. She watched the medical monitors anxiously, numbers rising, falling, stabilizing, trembling again like they couldn't decide between life and death. Eleanor's breaths were shallow. Each inhale felt like a borrowed second, each exhale like a fragile promise. The doctor sat across from Layla, his hands steady, his expression focused. He adjusted oxygen tubes, checked vitals, and spoke softly to the paramedics. Layla felt small, swallowed by fear and hope at the same time. "Miss Eleanor," she whispered, "please stay with me. Please." The ambulance hit a bump, jolting everything inside. A paramedic reached out to steady the stretcher. The doctor looked at Layla. "She's fighting, you know." Layla blinked. "How do you know?" He gave her a small, tired smile. "People who have given up don't respond to familiar voices." "She recognized you." "That means she has something, someone, to hold on for." Layla stared down at Eleanor, a lump forming in her throat. "She's the only person who ever made me feel like I mattered." The doctor's eyes softened. "Then keep talking to her. Even unconscious patients hear more than we think." Layla nodded, tightening her grip on Eleanor's hand. "I won't stop talking. I won't stop at all." As they rushed through the hospital gates, a swarm of reporters already waited outside, having followed the scandal from the funeral. Cameras flashed. Microphones were shoved forward. Security guards pushed them back while shouting orders. "Move back. Let the medical team pass. Clear the entrance." Layla was ushered out first, still holding Eleanor's hand lightly until a nurse guided her away. Layla's feet hit the pavement, and she was met with a blinding storm of questions and flashes. "Are you the girl who stopped the funeral? How did you know she was alive? Did you accuse Rowan Vance of attempted murder? Who are you to the Vance family? Is it true the billionaire spoke your name?" Layla flinched, backing toward the ambulance doors, her heart pounding painfully. She didn't know what to say, who to answer, or how to handle the sudden attention. Her throat felt dry. Her eyes burned. Then the doctor stepped in front of her, shielding her with his body. "That's enough," he said firmly. "She's a minor. Leave her alone." He guided her through the automatic doors, and the hospital swallowed them in its sterile white brightness. The chaos outside disappeared behind thick glass. Inside, the air smelled of disinfectant and something cold and metallic. Nurses rushed back and forth, voices echoing through the hallways. Eleanor's stretcher was wheeled immediately into the critical care unit. Layla followed until a nurse blocked her. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," she said gently. "We need to stabilize her first." "But Layla stammered. "You can wait in the family room," the nurse said. "We'll update you." Layla frowned. I'm not family." The nurse hesitated. She looked at Layla's tear-streaked, exhausted face. "You matter to her." "That's enough." Layla swallowed hard and nodded. She was led to a small room with couches, dim lights, and a water dispenser humming quietly. The doctor joined her moments later, taking a seat across from her. He set a coffee cup on the table and leaned forward. "Layla, can you tell me exactly what happened with Rowan Vance at the hospital?" Layla looked down at her hands, twisting them nervously. "He said she was dead. But she wasn't. I saw her fingers move. And when I said it, he injected something into her for." The doctor's eyes hardened instantly. "Injected what?" "I don't know," Layla whispered. "But after that, she stopped moving completely." He let out a slow breath, grave and cold. "We will investigate that immediately." Layla nodded faintly, but her mind was spinning. Her body felt heavy, her eyelids fluttering. She hadn't slept properly in days. She had run miles. She had fought a crowd. Now, everything hit her all at once. She leaned back on the couch, hugging her knees. The room felt too big, too quiet, too unfamiliar. The silence pressed on her chest like a weight. The doctor spoke softly. "You're safe now, Layla." Layla didn't respond. She wasn't sure she believed that. Minutes dragged into hours. She stared at the door, fearing it would open to bring terrible news. She replayed the funeral scene in her mind, people gasping, Rowan running, Eleanor breathing, the casket opening. She clung to the sound of Eleanor whispering her name. That whisper kept her anchored. Just when she felt she couldn't sit still any longer, the door opened. A nurse stepped inside. "Layla?" Layla stood so fast she felt dizzy. "Is she okay?" "Please, tell me." The nurse smiled softly. "She's stable for now. She's in a coma, but she's breathing on her own." Layla's legs nearly gave out. Relief washed through her like a warm wave. She pressed a hand to her mouth, tears welling. Can I see her?" The nurse nodded. "Only for a few minutes." They walked down a quiet hallway, the hum of machines echoing faintly. The nurse opened the door to a small room. There were machines surrounding Eleanor, beeping rhythmically. Tubes and wires connected to her fragile body. Layla stepped inside slowly, her breath catching. Eleanor looked peaceful again. But this time, it wasn't the peace of a false death, it was the fragile stillness of someone fighting for life. Layla approached and gently touched her hand. It was warmer now. Less lifeless. She whispered, "I'm here." Just like before. A soft knock interrupted her. She turned and froze. It wasn't a nurse. It wasn't the doctor. It was a police officer. A tall woman with sharp eyes and a notebook in hand. "Layla," she said gently, "I need to ask you a few questions about Rowan Vance." Layla tensed. Her fingers tightened around Eleanor's hand. "He tried to kill her," Layla whispered. The officer gave a grim nod. "That's what we're trying to determine. Rowan fled the funeral grounds, but security footage shows he escaped through the west gate. We're searching for him." Layla swallowed hard. Her stomach twisted. "He's dangerous." "That's why I need your help," the officer said. She guided Layla toward the hallway, giving her space to breathe. "Tell me everything you saw and heard." Layla recounted the hospital scene. Rowan's cold voice, the syringe, the threats, the denial, the smirk. Each word trembled, but she forced them out. The officer took notes, her expression darkening as the story unfolded. When Layla finished, the officer placed a hand on her shoulder. "You saved her life. We will make sure Rowan is held accountable." Layla nodded, but fear still lingered inside her. Rowan wasn't someone who gave up easily. He had money, connections, power, and a motive stronger than most people realized. Inheritance. But Layla didn't know just how deep Rowan's greed ran. Not yet. Hours passed. Afternoon faded into night. The world outside continued to spin with chaos, news reports, headlines, protests outside the Vance estate, police searches, speculation, outrage. People debated whether Eleanor's revival was a miracle or a scandal. But Layla stayed by Eleanor's bedside, refusing to leave even for food. Nurses checked in occasionally, urging her to rest, but she shook her head every time. She whispered to Eleanor often, "You saved me when no one else cared. I won't leave you." Around midnight, as Layla drifted in and out of exhausted half-sleep, she overheard hushed voices outside the door. Two doctors speaking. "The toxin level in her bloodstream is unusual." "Yes, but not lethal by itself. Combined with sedation, it could have slowed vitals to near zero." "You think it was intentional?" "I think someone wanted her declared dead." A chill crawled down Layla's spine. She already knew, but hearing it confirmed made her chest ache with anger. She stood, cracked the door open slightly, and whispered, "It was Rowan." The doctors turned, startled. One of them stepped closer. "Layla, you should be resting." But she shook her head. He tried to finish what he started. He tried to bury her alive. The doctors sighed heavily. "The police are searching for him. Lawsuits will follow. Everything will come to light." Layla stepped out fully, her voice wavering but firm. "You don't understand. He won't stop. He'll come for her again." The doctors exchanged uneasy looks. One finally said, "We have security on this floor. She's safe." But Layla's instincts screamed otherwise. She knew what desperation looked like. She had seen it in Rowan's eyes. He wouldn't let his inheritance slip away, especially not because of a poor orphan girl. She returned to the room and sat in the chair by Eleanor's bed. The moonlight filtered through the blinds, casting stripes across the room. The machines beeped steadily. Eleanor's chest rose and fell rhythmically. Layla wrapped her fingers around Eleanor's. "I won't let him hurt you." She stayed awake, eyes watching the door, listening to every footstep, every whisper, every creak in the hallway. At around 3 a.m., she must have dozed off for a moment. Because when her eyes snapped open, something felt wrong. The hallway outside was too quiet. The guard who had been stationed near the door was gone. The light under the door flickered slightly, as if someone had just passed by. Layla stood slowly, her heart hammering. She looked at Eleanor. Then at the door. Footsteps. Soft. Careful. Approaching. Not a nurse. Not a doctor. Someone trying to stay unseen. Layla's breath caught. And before she could react, the doorknob turned up. Part 4. Around 2,000 words, cinematic, emotional, continuous narration, no headings. Ends with word count. The world felt strangely quiet after Mira's confession. The storm outside had eased into soft drizzle, tapping gently on the glass walls of the hospital room, as if the sky itself were calming down after the truth had been unleashed. But inside the room, nothing was calm. Anya stood frozen in place, her thin hands clenched at her sides, eyes fixed on Mira with a mixture of disbelief, fear, and grief. Mr. Rahim sat at the foot of his wife's hospital bed, his entire body trembling as he replayed every word she had spoken. You did this," he whispered, voice cracking. Mira closed her eyes slowly, fresh tears sliding down her cheeks. "I never meant for her to die. They told me the medicine was safe. They paid me, they promised me no one would get hurt." "But you let them declare her dead," Anya said quietly, almost in a whisper, but every syllable was sharp enough to cut stone. "You watched them put her in a death file. You let them prepare her funeral." "I tried to stop it," Mira cried, shaking her head. I begged them to wait, but they threatened me. They said if I talked, I'd go to jail, and my son would starve. I had no choice. Anya stepped closer, her voice trembling with restrained pain. My sister didn't have a choice either. Those words hit Mira harder than a slap. Mr. Rahim covered his face with his hands, shoulders shaking. All this time, I thought it was fate. A heart attack. A tragic loss. But it was greed. Manipulation. A business plan. Anya placed a gentle hand on his arm. She's still alive because she's strong. You raised a strong woman. He looked up, eyes swollen, voice trembling. And because you saved her, Beta, you saved my wife. Anya wiped her tears with the back of her hand. I only did what was right. Suddenly, the door burst open. In stormed Zara, one of the billionaire relatives, dressed head to toe in black even though the funeral had not yet happened, and two other men Anya recognized as corporate board members. Her face twisted in fury the moment she saw the living, breathing billionaire on the hospital bed. What is this? Zara shrieked, pointing aggressively. Why is the body awake? We signed papers. The death certificate is finalized. This funeral was planned. This can't happen. She stopped mid-rant when she noticed Mira. Oh, she hissed with venom. You were supposed to stay quiet. Mira backed away instinctively, but Zara's men blocked the door. Anya stepped in front of her protectively. Don't touch her. Zara narrowed her eyes at Anya, her lips curling into a cruel smirk. The orphan girl. Of course. You're the one who ruined everything. Didn't your kind learn to stay in their place? Anya didn't move. This is her place. This is my place. This is the truth. You can't hide it anymore. Zara scoffed, snapping her fingers at the men. Remove her. She's trespassing. But Mr. Rahim, who had been silent, slowly rose to his feet. No one touches her. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of oceans. Even the guards hesitated. Zara's expression twisted, first disbelief, then indignation. You're awake. Talking. She took a slow step toward him, still trying to smirk. How inconvenient. And you're exposed, he said. Zara laughed, but her voice trembled. Don't act like you can do anything. You're weak. You're sick. And all the signatures, the transfers, the board approvals, they are already done. Anya felt her stomach twist. Transfers? Mira stepped forward, voice shaking. They wanted your estate. They wanted control over your company. That's why they rushed the death documents. The medicine they gave your wife. Enough, Zara snapped. You talk too much. The men moved toward Mira again. But this time, Anya stepped directly in front of her, arms out, shaking but unmovable. You harm her, and the whole world will know. There are cameras in this hallway. This is a hospital. You're already guilty. Zara's face reddened with rage. You think anyone will believe a starving orphan over me? I already do, came a weak but steady voice. Everyone turned. The billionaire, Mrs. Rahim, had opened her eyes. Barely conscious, her breathing shallow, but her voice unmistakably alive. You will not touch that girl. Zara stumbled backward as if she'd seen a ghost. You are dying, she stammered. You weren't supposed to wake up. Mrs. Rahim managed a faint smile. People like you always underestimate the will to live, especially when someone innocent is fighting for it. Her eyes shifted to Anya, warm and full of gratitude. Thank you for not giving up on me. Anya swallowed hard, trying not to cry. I couldn't. I knew you were still there. I felt it. Zara's panic grew desperate. This is insane. None of this will hold up in court. We have documents. We have signatures. And we have the truth, Mr. Rahim said. Plus security cameras, medical logs, and a nurse who just confessed everything. Mira nodded shakily. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. I'm done being scared. Zara's face twisted. You fool. But suddenly, the door opened again, and this time, security stepped in. Followed by a senior police officer. Zara's expression crumbled. Who called them? I did, Anya said quietly. She held up the billionaire's phone, the one she had picked up earlier when Zara wasn't paying attention, showing the emergency call screen. Zara looked like the floor had been pulled out from under her. You little. The police officer stepped forward. Zara Malik, you are being detained on suspicion of fraud, attempted identity manipulation, conspiracy, and endangering a patient's life. Zara froze. And her? The officer asked, pointing to the silent men behind Zara. Also involved, Mira whispered. They threatened me. The men tried to run. Security tackled them before they reached the corridor. Zara screamed and thrashed as the officers cuffed her. You can't arrest me. I'm family. I'm on the board. I know people. The officer replied coldly, and they all know what you've done. As they dragged Zara away, she turned back to Anya with hatred burning in her eyes. This isn't over. You're nothing. You're. The officer shut the door behind them, cutting her voice off. Silence washed over the room. Slowly, painfully, Mrs. Rahim lifted her trembling hand toward Anya. Come here, child. Anya approached, tears dripping down her cheeks. She knelt beside the bed, hands clasped together, overwhelmed. You're the reason I'm alive, the woman whispered, brushing Anya's cheek with a weak hand. The world may not value the poor, but God always sees the heart. Anya broke into sobs she had been holding back for hours, days even. She lowered her head onto the older woman's hand. I'm just glad you're safe, she whispered. Behind her, Mira was crying too, relief mixed with guilt. Mr. Rahim placed a firm but gentle hand on her shoulder. You made mistakes, he said softly. But you told the truth today. And you saved my wife by doing so. Mira covered her face and nodded, shoulders shaking. Anya turned to her. You're not alone. You were scared. Anyone would be. But you chose to be brave. Mira looked up, eyes red. You're the brave one, Anya. I've never met anyone like you. A soft, yet warm smile touched Anya's lips. I just followed my heart. Mr. Rahim exhaled slowly, the weight of the night finally easing off his chest. You did more than that, he said gently. You changed everything. The doctor entered moments later, stunned speechless to find the billionaire alive, awake, and speaking. How is this possible? He whispered. Anu answered simply, miracles happen when the truth is stronger than the lie. The doctor began checking vitals, and his eyes widened. Her heartbeat is stabilizing. Her oxygen levels are rising. This is incredible. Mira stepped up. She needs real care now. Clean medicine. No interference. The doctor nodded firmly. I'll personally take over her case. As nurses rushed in to help, Mr. Rahim looked at Anu again, eyes softening. You risked everything to save someone who meant nothing to the world. Why, Beta? Anya took a deep breath. Because when I was little, my sister died at a hospital. No one listened. No one checked. They treated us like we didn't matter because we were poor. I promised myself, if I ever saw someone being ignored the same way, I would fight. Her voice wavered. I didn't save my sister, but I saved her. The room fell into emotional silence. Mrs. Rahim whispered, voice full of emotion, and we will never forget it. Anya blinked in confusion. I didn't do it for anything in return. I know, Mr. Rahim said, smiling softly. That's why you deserve everything that is coming. Anya frowned gently. What do you mean? But he only said, you'll see. The rain outside finally stopped. The first light of dawn began peeking through the clouds, soft, golden, warm, as if the world itself were exhaling after a long night of darkness. Yet Anya felt a new tension brewing in her chest, a realization that something big was about to unfold. Something she wasn't prepared for. And she was right. Because what came next was something that would change her life forever. And it all began with 6 simple words spoken by the recovering billionaire. Bring her to me, after surgery. Anya's heart skipped. Something told her the story wasn't finished yet. Not even close. Part 5. Around 2,000 words, cinematic, emotional, continuous narration, no headings. Ends with word count. The hours after surgery felt unreal, as if the entire world had fallen into a quiet, breathless pause. Anya sat on a small metal bench outside the ICU, knees drawn close, her thin shawl wrapped around her shoulders. The night's storm had passed, but the cold still lingered in her bones. She hadn't slept in almost 30 hours, yet exhaustion wasn't the reason her eyes refused to close. It was everything that had happened. Everything that might happen next. Every time she blinked, the scenes replayed. The moment she stopped the funeral, the shocked gasps, Mira's confession, Zara's arrest, and the trembling voice of the billionaire whispering for her, bring her to me, after surgery. Anya didn't even know why that sentence made her chest so tight. She wasn't scared. She'd already faced more danger than most people saw in a lifetime. She wasn't guilty. She had spoken nothing but the truth. She wasn't even worried about consequences. Nothing could be worse than losing her sister. So why did her heartbeat quicken every time she thought of stepping inside that room again? Maybe because she had never been wanted by anyone before. Not like this. The ICU doors finally slid open, and a nurse stepped out quietly, scanning the hallway until her eyes landed on her. Anya? The nurse called softly. Anya stood quickly. Yes? Is she okay? The nurse smiled gently. She's stable. The surgery went well. She's asking for you. Anya felt something warm spread through her chest. Relief, hope, fear, something deeper. She nodded and followed the nurse through the dim corridor. Her footsteps echoed on the polished floors, each tap loud enough to remind her that everything around her was real, not a dream. When the door opened, Anya saw Mr. Rahim first. He was sitting in a chair next to his wife's bed, holding her hand tenderly. His normally composed face was softened by overwhelming gratitude. He smiled when he saw Anya, genuine, warm, fatherly. Come in, child, he said softly. She's been waiting for you. Anya approached hesitantly. Mrs. Rahim looked so peaceful now, connected to machines, yes, but her color was returning, her breathing steady, her eyes alive. She slowly turned her head toward Anya. Come closer, Beta, she whispered, her voice still fragile but steadier than before. Anya stepped to the bedside. The woman gently placed her fingers over Anya's hand. You saved me, she whispered. Not just from death, but from a life destroyed by lies. Anya swallowed back a lump in her throat. Anyone would have done the same. No, the woman said softly. Not anyone. Most people see injustice and look away. Most people fear power. Most people assume the poor never know the truth. She gave Anya's hand a gentle squeeze. But you saw what no one else did. You heard what everyone else ignored. You fought for me when not even my own family did. Anya lowered her eyes. I just didn't want you to be buried alive. The billionaire smiled weakly. My dear child, you saved more than just my body. You saved the legacy of this family. You saved my husband from a broken life. You saved our company from falling into poisonous hands. Anya stepped back slightly, confused. I didn't mean to do all that. I didn't even think so far. That is the beauty of pure intentions, Mr. Rahim said, rising from his seat. They create miracles far bigger than we can ever imagine. Anya felt her ears grow warm. Compliments always made her uncomfortable, like a spotlight she never asked for. Mr. Rahim approached her more formally now. Anya, he said slowly, there is something I want to discuss with you. Something important. Before he could continue, the door opened again, and Mira entered silently, her eyes red from crying but her face calmer. She carried a small file in her hand. I finished my statement, she said shakily. The police have everything. They know who drugged the medicine and who forged the documents. Mr. Rahim nodded gently. Thank you, Mera. You were brave. Mera looked at Anya and managed a trembling smile. I learned from the best. Anya smiled back, her eyes softening. The older couple exchanged glances, silent, emotional, filled with unspoken understanding. Finally, Mr. Rahim gestured to the chairs. Sit, Anya. We need to talk. Her heart thumped. She sat down nervously, fingers twisting the edge of her shawl. He spoke calmly, gently, but every word carried immense weight. Before my wife's surgery, she told me something. She said, that girl is meant to be part of our story. Don't let her disappear once I'm saved. And she was right. Anya stiffened in surprise. We've spoken to the board, he continued. To the doctors. To the authorities. Everyone knows what you did. And we owe you more than thanks. Anya immediately shook her head. Please, don't give me money. I don't want money. The couple exchanged soft smiles. We're not offering money, Mrs. Rahim said gently. We're offering a life. Anya blinked. I don't understand. Mr. Rahim took a slow breath. You said something earlier, about your sister dying because no one listened. You said you had no one else. Anya nodded, a shadow of old pain passing through her eyes. Well, he said slowly, you're not alone anymore. Her breath caught. We want to take responsibility for you, Mrs. Rahim whispered. Not as charity. Not as payment. As family. Anya's mouth parted in shock. We want you to live with us, Mr. Rahim continued. Study. Grow. Have a real home. Not because you saved her, but because you deserve a life where someone finally fights for you the way you fought for us. Anya froze, unable to form words. She felt the air leave her lungs in a slow, shaky gasp. Live, with them? A home? A family? It was too big. Too unreal. Too impossible. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say yes, Mrs. Rahim said softly. Or say you will think about it. But don't say you're not worthy. Because you are. Anya's eyes filled with tears she couldn't hold back anymore. Mera quietly placed a hand on her shoulder. You deserve happiness. Please accept it. But I'm just an orphan, Anya whispered. No, Mr. Rahim said firmly. You're Anya, the girl who saved a life. The girl who stopped a funeral. The girl with more courage than this entire building combined. The strength in his words shattered the last wall inside her. Anya began crying, not soft, polite tears, but the raw, painful kind that come from years of surviving without love, without safety, without anyone to say you deserve more. She covered her face, overwhelmed. Mrs. Rahim held her hand gently. Beta, let us take care of you now. Anya sobbed harder. All her life she had begged God for one thing, not money, not luxury, not luck, just someone who would hold her when she was broken. Someone who wouldn't abandon her. Someone who would choose her. Slowly, through the tears, she whispered, Yes. The couple exhaled in relief. Mira wiped her tears. Even the nurse at the door smiled. For the first time in her life, Anya felt something powerful bloom in her chest. Belonging. Not because of luck. Not because of pity. Because of courage. Because she stood up when everyone else sat down. Because she fought for someone else when no one had fought for her. Mr. Rahim placed a protective arm around her shoulders. From today, you are family. Anya pressed her forehead into his shoulder, crying softly. After a long, warm moment, she looked at both of them. Why me? She whispered. Mrs. Rahim smiled with the gentleness of a mother. Because sometimes, the poorest hearts carry the richest love. Anya's tears fell again, but with peace this time, not pain. The door opened once more. A police officer stepped inside, giving a respectful nod. The accused will be facing multiple charges, he said. Your testimony, Ms. Anya, was crucial. Justice will be served. Anya nodded quietly. Justice. A word she had rarely seen in her life. But today, she helped make it happen. After the officer left, the room felt calm again. Safe. Anya sat beside the recovering billionaire, holding her hand, feeling warmth she hadn't felt in years. The older woman stroked her hair gently. You saved me, she repeated softly. Anya smiled, tears glistening. Maybe God gave me a second chance, through you. And we, Mr. Rahim said, have been given a second chance through you. The sun began rising outside, soft golden light spilling into the ICU, warm and hopeful, the perfect symbol of a new beginning. Anya gazed at the glowing horizon. Her life had been built on loss, loneliness, hunger, sorrow. But today, for the first time, she felt like she belonged somewhere, like she mattered, like she wasn't invisible anymore. And as she watched the sun rise, a quiet, powerful truth settled inside her heart. She had saved a billionaire, but in a way she never expected. She had saved herself too. Moral of the story: true courage doesn't come from wealth, power, or status. It comes from a pure heart that isn't afraid to stand alone for what is right. Sometimes the poorest soul carries the richest courage, and one act of truth can change the destiny of many. Outro, cinematic, emotional, YouTube-style narration. Natural English, human tone, smooth flow. And that, my friends, is the unbelievable story of how a poor orphan girl stopped a billionaire's funeral and changed not just one life, but an entire legacy. Anya walked into that hall with nothing, no money, no power, no family name. Just truth. Just courage. Just a heart strong enough to stand against greed, lies, and a world that often ignores the powerless. She saved a woman everyone had given up on. She exposed a conspiracy built by the rich and trusted. She brought justice where there was none. And in return, she finally found something she had been searching for her whole life. A family. A home. Love. This story reminds us that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes, they walk barefoot. Sometimes, they come from broken places. Sometimes, they are the ones you least expect. So if you ever feel invisible, powerless, unheard, remember Anya. Remember that one honest voice can be louder than 1,000 lies. Remember that courage doesn't come from status, it comes from the heart. And who knows? Maybe one day, your courage could save someone too. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional and powerful stories like this one. Your support helps us bring more inspiring tales to life. Thank you for watching. And always remember, no matter who you are, your truth has the power to change everything.